Welcome to Currents Up Close, and another in a series of programs on education in Cedar Falls. And today it's my pleasure to reintroduce Dr. Andy Pattee, Superintendent of Schools of the Cedar Falls Community School District. Good to have you here again, Andy.
Oh, very honored to be here again, Floyd. Thank you very much.
Great, and into your second full term as Superintendent of the Cedar Falls Community School District, and thought it would be a good time to bring our viewers up to date on the things that are happening in the district, things that have been happening, things that are currently going on, and some of the future planning for the district. So we're going to get right into that and tell us a little bit about the first couple of years that you've experienced so far.
Well, it's been a tremendous transition. As you well know, it's a great community and it's a great school system. And it's all based on the people that are here. We have tremendous teachers, tremendous educators, great individuals, parents in our city, as well as our students are outstanding. So we have really enjoyed the transition and enjoy being here in the Cedar Valley.
So we're going to look at several of the things as far as a big picture of the district, and then we want to get into some detailed looks, and we're going to talk about collaboration within the district on professional learning, communities and curriculum, digital learning, STEM focus, focus on student skills, skill by skill excellence in all you do, and facilities, talk about some of the planning that's been going on as a result of your bond or your building study and bond referendum. So let's get right into something that really has been exciting to watch develop in the district. One of the most outstanding professional development programs that at least this observer has been able to watch and view after several decades in the education field some time ago, but professional learning communities. And Dr. Pattee, just explain what those are all about and what's the district focus currently.
Yeah, our focus with professional learning communities is to ensure that we have collaborative approaches that are occurring in all of our classrooms. It's really a focus on having our practitioners, our experts, focus on the three big ideas of what it means to really ensure we have success for all of our students. So we focus on learning, number one. We have collaborative cultures to ensure that we're talking about our kids and how do we ensure all of our kids learn at high levels, and then we focus on those results. We're data driven. We look at whether or not students are succeeding and at high levels, if they're struggling, and then we make sure that we make the responses as necessary to ensure that high level of learning occurs for all students and no students fall through the cracks, so to speak.
So, Dr. Pattee, how does that happen? You just don't explain that to teachers and say, you're going to have professional learning communities. What about teacher involvement in that professional growth activity?
That is so crucial and so key, and I think all of our staff members, when you talk to them about the PLC process, speak from the heart and they say this is one of the best professional learning experiences we can undertake. It's an ongoing process. There's never an end involved, and it's a matter of opportunity to have devoted time. The district has set aside time, the school boards has set aside time to allow staff to have these collaborative conversations, to talk about strategies, to talk about what works in classrooms and what doesn't work in classrooms. What do we need to change and how do we infuse better practices? Then how do we respond to ensure those students are learning at high levels based on the data that we collect daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, so we are ensuring a continuous trend line of engagement and growth.
I know you have district funds set aside for professional development, but oftentimes you need a little bit more to send teachers to conferences. And speaking on behalf of the Cedar Falls Community Schools Foundation, our donors have supported this initiative to a very large degree and feel very gratified by the response we're getting from teachers as we've supported that initiative in the district.
That has been such a huge benefit to the district. We send roughly 30 teachers every summer to conferences to be able to learn more, to have better practices within the PLC, Professional Learning Community Framework, and it has been a great benefit to be able to have those staff members come back with that renewed energy and excitement about this process.
Well, Andy, one of the great components, of course, as you mentioned earlier, was looking at assessment. How do you know the results? You focus on results, but how can you tell that achievements are being made by students over the course of a given year or a school enrollment? So talk a little bit about how the district looks at the assessment of students.
That really feeds into the 4 critical questions over PLC as well, and what we really ensure and focus on, and all of our staff knows these questions, they look at these questions, they understand these questions, and these questions really what drives the conversations within our PLC frameworks. Number one, what do we want students to learn? And we walk through what is that viable and guaranteed curriculum that we expect every student to know, those essential concepts and skills that every kid has to have in order to be college and career ready. How will we know students are learning? What does that data look like? What does it show for a student to be able to set, to be able to highlight and emphasize their learning? How are we going to respond if a student doesn't learn? So what enrichment activities or remediation activities are going to be in place to ensure that they reach the levels that we know they need to reach in order to be successful? Then the fourth question, how do we respond when they do learn it and they already have learned it? So we ensure enrichments or extensions so those students are challenged at higher levels to be able to showcase their learning in those unique ways. So that's the framework that we utilize.
Great, and I know other districts are involved with the PLC, and particularly in the state, but the district has received a significant honor recently. Can you tell us a little bit about that and the district model of professional learning communities in Cedar Falls?
We were honored recently, roughly about 2 weeks ago, to be named a district model PLC, and that is a very unique honor. There are several buildings that are honored across the nation, but we are one of 3 districts in the state of Iowa and actually one of 22 districts in the nation. And again, if you go to the website, it's called Solution Tree website, that is the kind of founder of the PLC model, and you will find that there are buildings across the country from Florida to California to Texas to Connecticut that are model building for the PLC process. But again, being one of 22 districts with that recognition, it certainly shows the significance and the high level of excellence that we devote to the PLC process.
Great. Just to solidify what we've been talking about here, internally but externally, to get that recognition is just great. One of the things we look about when we talk about changes in the district, a lot of digital learning initiative, and let's get into that a little bit and then move into the STEM and everything with technology changing so rapidly and currently and almost becoming obsolete as we speak, some items and areas, but talk a little bit about digital learning in the district.
We have really put a large emphasis on digital learning. Our expectation is that kids have access to technology, they have the ability to utilize technology, and we want them to feel comfortable with technology because we know that is an important framework for the future. What we have done as a district is again, emphasize technology with the use of Chromebooks. Every one of our students has a Chromebooks in grades 7 through 12. They utilize those at school, they take those home with them at night, and they have great access to that technology. And then in 3rd grade through 6th grade, we really have a 2-to-1 ratio for all those students where they have access to Chromebooks and can utilize that embedded into their classrooms throughout the day. And then we've gone with iPads, pre-K through 2nd grade, and that's mainly for finger dexterity. Kids struggle sometimes at that age to be able to use their typing skills with a keyboard, so that allows them to have the touch screens. And this whole focus, and we call it a digital learning initiative, not a one-to-one rollout, because it's really focused on digital learning. How do we embed higher order thinking skills, engagement, as well as collaboration into all that we do to ensure higher levels of learning and achievement by our students?
So it's really taking the basics and assisting and helping with technology. That's been the really key to that. We also then are really inundated with lots of STEM focus, science, technology, engineering, and math. And we know that the district has been working with STEM initiatives for some time, and here we have a visual that shows visually some of the many things happening in the district.
Yep. There is a great number of activities that we utilize for the STEM focus, and these are some of the visuals. We do the hour of code, which is the middle slide, and really focus on coding and allowing our students to have those experiences. We do a lot just with individual breakout of students to be able to have deeper understanding with the technology and robotics work, work with engineering and really high-level math skills. So it's embedded in all that we do across our district.
And with the STEM, of course, for some years the district has been involved with robotics, and I can recall back maybe at the turn of into the turn of the 21st century, Kenton Swartley with the initial robotics teams, the first Lego and so forth. So they have been working on this for some time, but recently with the first Lego League and then a fantastic opportunity to go abroad to China. So talk a little bit about that from the technology perspective.
We really pride ourselves on having that systemic view and that systemic opportunities for students pre-K through 12, and we really embed engineering and robotics throughout those experiences for students with Lego Leagues or First Robotics, and then the high school robotics teams, and it's been very successful. We have a large amount of students involved with all those different activities, and then like you said, one of the culminating experiences for students last year, we were invited one of 4 teams to go to China. We had some relationships with a team from China and a businessman from China, and they asked us to come over to help lead some teams over there, to train some teams over there so they could start this robotics framework in China. So we did go there. It was a great experience for several of our students, and they were able to work side by side with a lot of students from China. And you talk about the flattening of the world, the shrinking of the world. This is a prime example where this occurs. We hosted a China team then here for several different times, and in fact there's another Chinese team coming here in the near future as well.
Great. Just as a lead-in to that, or a follow-up segue, we're going to have Kenton Swartley on, a future Currents Up Close program, to talk about First Lego and the Chinese robotics trip. So he's got a wealth, about 15 years of experience in that category of leading students throughout this, along with a great deal of help from the community, engineers and businesses and things like that have been very supportive of that entire robotics program.
Exactly.
Just great opportunities for kids, achieving not only locally, regionally, nationally, but now on the international basis. Andy, we're going to talk a little bit about connectedness within the district and connecting everything that we have going on. And so tell us about the challenges that the district faces in getting people connected.
Well, you know, we always try to ensure that there is connectedness and trying to make sure that within technology we expand those experiences outside of our classrooms. We've been very fortunate, especially with our technology rollout in Cedar Falls, because we have Cedar Falls Utilities, and they provide a 1 gig pipeline into every one of our buildings, which is, again, the 1 gig city and unique across the nation, across the country, and very fortunate to have that. Here's just a very brief and quick snapshot screen capture of a tweet that happened, and we had just an example of how do we connect globally. 5th graders were reading a book and they were doing a read aloud, and they came to a major plot twist, and 5th graders were so excited with their use of technology, they actually sent a tweet out to the author, and within about 45 seconds, the author of this book that lives on the East Coast engaged with the class, started to have that dialogue and responded back to them. And again, no longer do we just collaborate within our buildings, but we are now connected to a larger world, and that is a tremendous opportunity for our students. Another
initiative that the district is looking into and planning and studying is the CAPS program, and I'm going to let you tell me what the acronym is all about, and tell us about what our involvement is with the CAPS program.
We are excited about this opportunity here in the near future. We are holding some informational meetings with some of our business leaders and individuals across the community to continue to explore this as a potential program in Cedar Falls. What it stands for is a Center for Advanced Professional Studies, and it is a really a targeted approach to partner with local business and industries to have students engaged in real life learning experiences, working hand in hand with business and industries to provide not only direct benefit to that business and industry, but again to have applicable experiences that allow those students to have great enrichment opportunities.
Great. Well, thank you so much in the first portion of this program. We've got a lot to cover yet as we enter into the second half, so we'll continue with Dr. Andy Pattee of Cedar Falls Community School Superintendent in the next half.
We all know that the Cedar Valley is a great place to live and work. And there are many individuals and organizations that are doing their part to improve the quality of life for everyone that calls this their home. On Serving the Valley, we sit down with these service organizations to learn more about different projects and events that need your support. We all need to do our part to help out our community. Tune into Serving the Valley to learn more.
Welcome back to the second half of our program on Currents Up Close with Education in Cedar Falls. And again, welcome back Dr. Andy Pattee, Superintendent of Cedar Falls Community Schools. We covered a lot of issues in the first half of the program, but let's move into something that has been on the top of the Board of Education, the Community School District, and that's facilities and enrollment and this entire operation of how do we connect the facilities in with the program that you're planning now and in the future.
Exactly. We have gone through a pretty extensive process, and this dates back, multiple years, 5 to 7 to 10 years, to continue to look and refine at our facilities to ensure excellence in all that we do. We know that there are very high expectations from our community for excellence for education, and that is permeates through all of the work that we do as well in each of our classrooms. All of these items that we've talked about with our focus on ensuring every single student receives the education so they are enhanced by their skill by skill, student by student approach that we undertake to make sure that we are responding to their individual needs, to ensure that we are focusing on differentiation so every single student is met at their level, that if a student is struggling, we provide them the opportunities for remediation. If a student already gets the information or has already learned the information, we provide enrichment opportunities for them to take their learning to higher levels. That requires different spaces than we've had in the past. It means that we need to have flexible spaces, we need to have collaborative spaces, we need spaces that allow us to break down large groups into small groups to ensure we are targeting every student at their specific level to ensure excellence so no child is again left behind. And overall, we have a growing district. We have limited capacity. So not only do we have some facilities that don't meet our educational goals, we don't have even the room to be able to handle the number of students that we anticipate coming into the district in the near future.
Well, that brings us into something we talked about with the current enrollment growth and projections out in the future. And that brings us back into the bond election and the past experience of September of 2014, and now planning ahead. You've had several community forums about looking at the results of the bond issue by community members, and tell us a little bit about that as we look at now and in the future.
Yeah, we've held several meetings since the bond election in September. We know that was a failed referendum, so since that time we have held listening posts to try to get to some of the root causes why people might have voted no, and what were those rationales and reasons, so we can make sure that we reflect, we refocus, we re-engage our community. From that time frame, through the engagement process, we started to hold forums. Those started in January. We held 3 forums to step back and ask people, here are some of the challenges we have as a district with our enrollment capacity and challenges with room in our schools, but also the fact that some of our facilities, again, don't meet those educational goals that we have in the future, and they limit us with those opportunities for students. So we are working then on that communication focus. What we do know from the listening post, the 3 root causes were, number 1, far and away, cost and overall cost was a concern. Number 2, lumping projects together, that we had 4 or 5 projects in one bond election, and that was a concern from the listening post and the surveys that we exhibited. And then finally, clarity of information, that there was some misinformation or lack of detailed information that people wanted. So we have framed those next phases to, okay, let's look at those issues. How do we address those issues as a community to be able to overcome and focus on excellence in the future for what we provide?
One of the, several of the next slides will talk about what you've just been mentioning here, and I think the clarity of information about what does it mean to have school facilities that are different than when we were going to school back in the day, and we got along okay. But now what's different now and then you project in the future that determines the need for some revision of facilities?
Exactly. Education shifted. When we look back over the course of, 50, 40, 30 years ago from what most of us remember sitting in the classroom, because we've all sat in the classroom, and that's what makes education a little unique. Everybody has had that experience, so they reflect back on their own personal experiences. But even looking 5 years ago, education has shifted drastically and remarkably over the course of the last several years. As we look to the future, we need to have different spaces and better spaces that allow us to, again, focus on student by student, skill by skill, to ensure we are having success for every one of our students. And some of these pictures and slides we can probably go through pretty quickly, but we know we want common spaces that not only allow students to use their technology, to have that ability during some free time or downtime before school or after school. We need the small group collaboration spaces where students can go and have enriched technology areas that they can meet and talk and be able to break items down. Tinker spaces, project-based learning, hands-on opportunities where students can use their hands, their mind, their body to be able to ensure that they are learning at high levels. Extremely important in this day and age. Those flexible classrooms where you have visibility but also small breakout areas for students to be able to work at their levels, in their groupings, and in their age abilities to ensure higher level activities are occurring and taking place than ever before. Ergonomics, we know that in this day and age the seats and desks are not necessarily the best endeavor. We want soft and ergonomically comfortable furniture that is suited and well suited for students. We have, I believe, in 5 of our 9 buildings, outdoor gardens. We want to expand that and continue to have a connection to outdoor learning and opportunities for students to be engaged with the outdoors, especially as we look at becoming more green and environmentally friendly in the future. And then finally, we need those professional teacher collaboration spaces, those spaces where staff members can meet, can work, can be able to continue to engage at high levels to ensure we're focusing on how do we prepare our students for college and career readiness to ensure excellence in all that we do.
Well, that's a great overview of what possibly could happen down the road. And just as an observation, I think most community members that have been in the district a long time know that Cedar Falls High School, the construction began on the current building in 1950.
Right.
And so we're looking at 65 years of good service by the building. The building was originally designed for 400 students.
Yep.
Peak enrollment came about in the 1970s with 1,500 plus students in 3 grades. With a very small portion of the building in existence at that time. But things changed over those years and additions were made to the building. And yet I personally keep going back to the core of the building, which was constructed in 1950. And particularly in light of STEM today and the technology focus and laboratories, that needs a lot of work. Additions or some improvements have been made over the years, but nothing that really meets the kinds of criteria that you're talking about today and in the future. And I think that alone is really of interest to a lot of people who would like to see really an upgrading of that core portion of the building and have those science labs and anything that would support technology in the district. That's a personal observation and opinion that I have, but just the age of that core building is really something.
It is, and that presents several challenges for us when we look to trying to provide the best educational experiences for students, knowing that education has shifted and the space needs have shifted dramatically since the time when the building was built.
And then when we pull this all together, Andy, we continue to go back to what are the results? How are kids achieving? And I think in light of facilities that we have, I think staff and community have done a great job, and students, their learning that goes on, and the programs that you have in place are really significant for reaching those ultimate goals of improving student achievement. And I think a lot of people want to know, well, just how are we doing? What's this tradition of excellence all about? And are students achieving less than we have previously? We hear a lot of comments that public education isn't at the forefront that it was in Iowa some years back. I think the results of our students would show otherwise. So let's talk about some of the achievement results and start with the ACT test scores, ACT.
Yep, we collect a lot of data on our students. We really focus again on excellence in all that we do, and making sure that we have systemic improvements in each and every building as we look at providing that excellence. Here you can just see the scores for ACT, and the composite score on the far right. Cedar Falls is in red, the state is in green, national scores are in blue. And again, we pride ourselves on making sure that our students are well prepared, have the skills necessary, and if you're struggling, have remediation. If you're accelerated, have greater opportunities to reach those higher levels. And you can see that resonates with our ACT scores.
Well, the ACT, the American College Testing Program, I was just reading recently, and when I started my education career, there was not an ACT testing program. But through the help really with the University of Iowa researchers, Lindquist and Leonard Felt and others, it really began on a test basis in 1959. And then really it's only been about 50 years since the early 60s that ACT has become really the standard for about 28 states in this country for college entrance admission. So that has changed over the years. We know that as well too, but it's really an indicator of success and achievement levels that when that 24.0 pops up, that's a pretty significant result when we look at college admission enrollments and what are future plans for our students.
Yep, it really is.
We also have a lot of initiatives going on with post-secondary enrollment option acts and as a result of that, students who are taking dual enrollment. So talk about that a little bit on the way of student involvement at Cedar Falls High School.
Yeah, we really pride ourselves on preparing students to be highly successful for college and career readiness. And our goal right now is to have 100% of our students walk away from our high school with college credits, with college level rigorous courses within their portfolio. And right now we're about that 75 to 76% of our students walk away with college credit, with again that goal of 100% in the future.
And we're talking not only University of Northern Iowa, we're talking about Hawkeye Community College, any other institutions that might be that we're working with in that area, or mostly Hawkeye and UNI? Mostly
Hawkeye and UNI at this time, exactly.
So just to tell our viewers what happens with the concurrent offerings in HCC, we have a slide here, and look at the core area offerings and the career and technical offerings. So quite a plethora of opportunities for students to be involved.
We really pride ourselves on providing that balance to ensure all students have an opportunity to have some experiences in different areas, core offerings, career and tech offerings, for that college rigor and that college level. These are all courses taught on our campus. All of these courses are taught by our staff, and you can see it goes into MIG welding, CNC programming, focusing on engineering principles and designs and architecture, as well as composition, college physics, sociology, etc. It's a wide variety of courses.
Well, and we do not have a slide, but really our concurrent AP classes, advanced placement classes, have been growing exponentially over the past several years. And we hear of many students who have really, you have to have a 3, on a scale of 5, a 3 to at least have credit for that as you enter into the post-secondary institution. And you track that very clearly, and I know in recent programs we've done with this that our students are doing very well in taking the advanced placement tests, and many of them almost are having a full year of college out of the way by the time they get started. And in these days and in the future of costs of post-secondary education, that's pretty significant to parents and students. Well, Andy, we've covered a lot of ground today, again, with all the initiatives and the updates going on with the Cedar Falls Community School District. Your leadership team, your professional staff, faculty, aides, everyone involved with the district, about 500 employees, I believe, about approximately 5,000 students, and multiply that by parents and grandparents and other people interested. A lot of interest in education in this community, and so a lot of things happening. As you sum it up, what are your thoughts as we close out this program?
Well, again, it's a tremendous place. Cedar Falls has great expectations for education. We have a staff that is unbelievably talented, focused on student success, great parents, great students, and we know that the future is extremely bright as we continue to move forward and focus on excellence in all we do.
Great. We thank you so much for appearing with us today and bringing us up to date with the Cedar Falls Community School District.
Thank you.